I built this entire greenhouse alone, and I learned a lot. Building this was a wild ride, but today I'm going to tell you a few different things that you need to know if you're thinking about getting one of these. Vego Garden says you need at least 2 people to build this, which I honestly agree with. But I was able to do this by myself, and I'm not a handyman in any way, shape, or form. But I did take plenty of notes as I was building this, so that way I could kind of give you some tips and tricks on how to make it easier. And if I can do it, then you can do it. But as soon as we get through the tips, I'm going to tell you how I feel about this greenhouse and if I can recommend it to you. I'm going to give you the good and the bad so you have an informed decision on if you should jump into this yourself. When this greenhouse gets delivered to your house, it comes in about 6 boxes and it's all strapped together on a pallet, and it honestly looks kind of intimidating, but I promise you, as soon as you jump into it, it's pretty easy. Now, I think the most important thing to mention in all of this is follow the manual. There was plenty of times where I kind of skipped ahead, or maybe I just skimmed the manual and I just started doing what I thought was next just to find out I was wrong. Another important piece is there's a lot of pictures in this manual, a lot of pictures that kind of show you what to do. And the pictures do a great job, but there's also little paragraphs above the pictures that tell you what the pictures are describing. There were 3 or 4 different times where I just looked at the pictures, I thought I knew what was going on, and so I went ahead and started doing it just to get confused and then go back to the manual, read the paragraph above it, and for it to tell me exactly what I needed to do. So read the actual writing in the manual as well as looking at the pictures. They both are very helpful. The very first thing I recommend you doing, the very first thing, is tape all of your panels. Do this on a day that you aren't planning on building your greenhouse. For me, it was a cold, snowy day, and I spent 3.5 hours inside my house taping these panels. So all it is it's just this little kind of foil tape that they provide, and you put the tape along the top seam. So for these square ones, it's really easy. You just put it across the top and across the bottom. This took me 3.5 hours inside. And the fact that I didn't have to do that when I went to build was extremely helpful. When I was building my greenhouse, all I had to do was slide the panels in because they were already pre-taped. So I promise you, pre-tape your panels. That is probably the biggest tip I'm gonna give you out of this. Now, my next tip is actually gonna be for the base. Let's go inside for that. The base was honestly really easy. Sorry if it's echoey in here, but the base was really easy to do. The only thing I had a problem with is I didn't read the instruction manual like we talked about earlier and look at what kind of tools I needed. Since I was doing this on an old cement pad that I had in the corner of my property, I needed to have a hammer drill to put the anchors in. I didn't have a hammer drill ready to go, so I spent 3 to 4 hours just driving around town trying to find a hammer drill that I could borrow. So make sure you have all the tools you need ready to go, whether you're putting it on cement, in the grass, on a pedestal, whatever you're doing, make sure you have all the tools you need. The next tip I have for you is for the walls. As soon as your base is done, you start building the walls. And the way the manual has you do it is you start putting in your vertical pieces. So these pieces right here, it wants you to put all of your vertical pieces all the way around the entire thing. They also tell you not to do this on a windy day, and I learned very quickly why that was. The day that I tried to do this, it was relatively windy. I put about these 4 vertical pieces up, and then the wind just knocked them right over. I tried to do it again, it knocked it over again. There wasn't much I could do about it. But the next day was a lot less windy, and I came up with a better idea. This was the only time that I deviated from the manual, and it worked a lot better for me, so it might work for you. Instead of putting all the vertical pieces in first, I kind of jumped ahead on the manual a little bit, so let's go inside and I'll explain to you what I did. Hopefully you can see me okay in here, but this is the back corner of the greenhouse, okay? We've got a 90-degree angle right here. So instead of going through and putting all my vertical pieces up around the entire thing, what I did is I put my corner vertical piece in, and then I put this piece in right here. As soon as I put this piece in, I took my horizontal piece right here and I connected these 2 pieces together. And then the next thing I did is I put in this vertical piece and this horizontal piece. So as I was building from a corner, and I was putting my horizontal pieces in, and it was really just kind of holding everything together. So I did this corner first, and then I moved over and did that corner, and then I did that corner, and then I did that corner. I had all the corners kind of connected with their horizontal pieces, and then from there I kind of spread out into each other, and every time I added a vertical piece, I also connected the horizontal piece, and it worked so much better. Now the next one goes back to our panels. Once again, make sure you're pre-taping these before you actually come out to build it. The next kind of tip I'm going to give there is these panels, when they come to you, they have plastic on both sides of the panel. One side the plastic is clear and the other side the plastic is white. When I was pre-taping my panels, I pulled off the clear plastic because that goes on the inside of the greenhouse, and the white plastic I actually kept on the panels because I wanted it to still protect the greenhouse as much as possible, especially on the outside. So I left the white plastic on, and then as soon as I went to go slide the panel into place, I pulled that plastic off and slid it into place. So that way nothing was gonna scratch this up before I got it on my greenhouse. And this is also gonna be the time that I tell you to go back to your manual and not skip ahead, because at this point in the build, I was in there trying to get my fingers in to get the bolts into where they needed to go, and I was struggling. My fingers wouldn't fit where I needed to get the bolts in. And I went back to the manual to see if there was an easier way, and sure enough, there was actually a tool that they give you in the package that helps you get these bolts in. It's a little thing that holds the bolt, and you can slide it back and push the bolt into place. I'm not even kidding you. I spent probably an hour trying to just fiddle with this with my fingers before just reading the manual and finding out that they give you a tool for that. So once again, look at your manual. The roof was actually really easy. It all just kind of came together. The truss went on really well, and then all the panels kind of fell into place. The only tip I have for you on this roof is make sure as you're building the entire thing, I'm talking from start to finish, just make your bolts finger tight, because there was a few of these that I tightened up a little bit too tight, and then when I went to go slide panels in throughout here, they wouldn't quite fit into place. And it's because I tightened everything too tight, so there wasn't enough play there. So make sure as you're building this, and it tells you this in the manual, as you're building it, just keep everything nice and loose so everything kind of can jiggle into place wherever you need it, and then when you're all completely done, that's when you go through and tighten all your bolts down. The doors here were extremely easy to assemble and mount, but I do have a confession to make. As I was getting ready to film this today, I came out here and I went to open up my door, and I went to hang it with a little hanger. So let me get this open for you. They have these little hangers for you to hang your doors on, or to keep your doors open. I came out here, I was getting ready to film, and I went to go open my doors just to find out that I had mounted my doors upside down. Yeah, so that's the thing that happened. It was very easy, but obviously easy to get wrong. So your handle is gonna go on the right-hand side when you're looking at your greenhouse. And if your little things here, these little metal loops here, don't line up with these hooks, then you did it wrong, like I did. And here we are. The greenhouse is done, and you probably want to know more about it and what my thoughts are on it. First off, it comes in a lot of different sizes. They are all 8.5 feet wide, and the smallest model is going to be 8.5 feet long, and then it goes to 10.5 feet, 12.5 feet, 14.5 feet, and 16.5 feet. So plenty of different sizes there to work with. The frame is made out of 1.2 millimeter rust-free aluminum, and this is honestly pretty heavy duty. It doesn't feel flimsy and light. It feels like it's gonna last me quite a while. The panels on this are double-walled and 8 millimeters thick, and what this does is gives you this little air gap in there that helps you with insulation. It can handle winds up to 62 miles an hour. It has stainless steel hardware, and it has plenty of ventilation. In this one, this is the 8.5 by 10.5. This has 4 vents in there, and they're really easy to just put up and down. They have rain gutters for rainwater collection, and they have double doors instead of a single door. It comes with a lock and a key, which I think is really awesome, and it comes with a 15-year warranty. Hi, future Brandon here. I was editing this video and I realized that I left a few things out. First off, if you are enjoying this video, go down and hit the like button, consider leaving a comment, something like that will help this video get pushed in the algorithm. And the second thing is I never actually told you where to find these greenhouses at. I'm gonna have a link in the description. I'm also gonna figure out how to put a QR code right here. I haven't done that yet, but I'm gonna put one here because I know a lot of people watch videos on their TV. So a QR code, you can just take a picture of it and find the greenhouses that way. I also have a discount code. It's just a bunch of letters and numbers, so I'm gonna put it on the screen somewhere. I'll also have that in the description below. But that one only goes until March 18th. So there's only gonna be a few days that you can use it, but it will give you $200 off of this. If you're watching this after March 18th, that discount code won't be available for you anymore. I apologize, but I got it for a little while. I've been sharing it on Instagram and stuff, so hopefully some people can take advantage of it. It's cold, that's all I got. Thank you for listening. This greenhouse really is beautiful, and I love having it right here at the end of my garden. The only issue I'm having having now is I need some kind of entrance right here so I can easily get to and from the greenhouse from the garden, but that's something I can figure out later. Now, what are my thoughts on this? Because I can't just sit here and tell you about all the good things and not even touch on anything bad, but let's start with the good. I love the ease of assembly on this. Once again, they said you needed 2 people, but me, as not a handyman at all, I was able to do it by myself. Yes, it took me a few days to get that figured out, but I got it done. So assembly is easy, and I really do love that about this. The next thing I really love about these, and it's honestly something that I really looked hard for in a greenhouse, is I wanted the double wall that they have on the panels for this. They give you that air pocket of insulation, and don't get me wrong, I love the look of a nice glass greenhouse. Honestly, that's probably my favorite looking greenhouse, but I want the insulation in between those little wall panels, and that's exactly what this gave me. I also love the big locking double doors. I have 5 kids, and I love having them in the garden with me, don't get me wrong, but there's times when I don't want them getting into my greenhouse, so I want to be able to lock the door, which is a big one for me. I also love that if it's hot, I can open up those double doors and cool it off a little bit in there, which brings me to the next thing that I love, which is the 4 vents that it comes with. That's a lot of ventilation for this size of greenhouse, so I can open up all 4 vents, I can open up those front doors and really get some air circulating in there. I also love the way that it looks and the height that I have. I love that I can go in there and not worry about hitting my head, and I honestly have so much height that I can put some hanging planters in there and grow things hanging from the ceiling. Okay, but now it's time for the bad. There isn't a whole lot of bad here, but there are a couple things I was able to find. I've worked with Vego Garden a lot in the past. I have 18 of their raised beds, I have a couple of their planters, I have their composting system, and now I have their greenhouse. I love everything of theirs, but I also know that they're a company that they listen to their customers' feedback and they make improvements based on that. So the first thing I have, which it's not a huge one, but I really wish I didn't have to tape those panels. That was miserable. My thumbs were hurting by the end of it, and it took me 3.5 hours of just like sitting in my living room, taping and taping. I really wish they could find a way to give these panels pre-taped or just not have the need for that at all. I don't know what that would look like, but the small one, there it is. The only other thing I could find is the way my greenhouse is set up. I have it in the corner of my property, so I have a fence on 2 ends, on the side and the end of my greenhouse, which means my 2 back greenhouse downspouts for the water, for the gutter system, I can't really use those because one of them is so far in the back that I can't put anything there to catch the water, and if I drain it back there, it's just going to drain off into that neighbor's property. On this one, I might be able to fit something there to catch the water, but it's going to be kind of difficult. And then if I didn't put something there, it would just drain off into that neighbor's property. So I can't really put my downspouts on those 2 rear locations. I really wish there was just something that I could like delete the rear ones to divert all the water to the front. I have some ideas on what I'm going to do to do that myself. It's not a big one, but it would be kind of cool if Vego added something that you could just, slide into the end of that backside gutter to stop the water from draining out the back and just moving all the water up front. Once again, it's something small, but it is something that I think would improve the greenhouse. Now, are either of those things a reason not to buy this? Absolutely not. This greenhouse 100% exceeded my expectations, and I would recommend this to anybody.